2025 fantasy football ADP has been released, and we're breaking down the biggest ranking decisions of the season. All this and more. It's the IBT podcast coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy, call him Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, and this is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. Two teams remain in the hunt for a Lombardi trophy, and we'll decide a winner this weekend down in the Bayou. It's Super Bowl week, and we'll certainly chat all about that. But also, we're going to turn the page and look at some 2025 fantasy football ADP and rankings decisions with a game of Would You Rather. I'm your host, Seth Wilcock, ready for a huge weekend of ball, and also my brother's 21st birthday. So I might maybe in rough shape coming Sunday morning. But we're gonna keep swinging. We're gonna keep getting up at it because that's what we do here at IBT. Tonight, I'm joined by maybe one of the internet's biggest shit stirrers, our internet and NFL betting expert here at IBT, Boston's boy Steve Lawson. Steve, how are you? Are you ready for the big game? And what does the food menu look like for Sunday night?
You know what? I am ready for the game. I'm excited, as usual, for the Super Bowl. I just had the Royal Rumble this past weekend, so that was fun. I gotta tell you, I'm watching back the intro. I think I gotta ice the hair up again.
Yes.
What do you think? Like, I gotta get it back to that bleachy, icy silver, right? Menu wise, you know what? I'm a sucker for chicken wings. You can't go wrong with chicken wings in my book. I'm ready to go. And I am so looking forward to talking 2025. And you know what? If I'm a shit stirrer, then I am the best in the world at it. To quote a famous hitman, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Right here.
Let's go. I love it. I'm with you on wings and pizza. That's kind of almost my go-to. We'll talk about some Super Bowl menu later. What flavor wings we talk? We talking hot buffalo? We talking barbecue, garlic parm? What are you doing over there?
It depends. So if I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings, I am a sucker for their garlic parm wings, but I do love a good buffalo wing. Like, you can't go wrong. You put a medium wing in front of me, and I'm usually pretty happy. But slap some sauce on it: barbecue, teriyaki, garlic parm, buffalo. Doesn't matter to me. Wings are wings. I'm just happy to be there.
All right. Well, I love to hear it. We're also joined by a man who moves the needle of this particular program, Yinzer Ginger, former IUP Crimson Hawk, our audio engineer behind the scenes, who'll be spending his Super Bowl Sunday down at Permane Brothers by the river, Kyle Scott. Kyle, great to see you tonight. How are you? How are the vibes out there in the Berg?
Vibes are, we're not Philly, so we've always got that to look up to. We don't have to be Philadephia because they're going to lose, man. At least I hope they do.
Wow.
I don't want any Philadelphia team to succeed. Wow. I don't want any Philadelphian to be happy at any moment of any day. So,
Kyle, can I tell you, I've had Permane Brothers, believe it or not. Like, I haven't been to Pittsburgh much. I've been there like twice in my life, and I've had like Permane Brothers sandwiches. Like, that's.
Do you like it, Steve? Because Kyle does not actually like that. So I was actually kind of slight at him.
I will tell you that it was very hyped up when I got it. I thought it was fine. Is what I'll say. That's where I'm going to end that. But I was told this was the best sandwich I was ever going to have, and it was fine.
Kyle?
No, I mean, it is fine. It's good meat. It's a fine sandwich. There's better places in the Strip to go.
Wow.
If you want a sandwich, though.
Wow. Actually, for Christmas, I got a ton of Permane Brothers gift cards. So the fiance and I on Saturday night, we went up to Permane Brothers, had some wings. I will say, Steve, if you're going back and you ever get their wings, I'm a big hot guy. I like hot chicken wings. We got some hot wings. They tasted great, not too hot, going down. The next day though, ooh, baby, oh baby,
Yeah, they heard coming out.
yeah, oh yeah. Just a word up to the wise out there. Protect yourself out there if you are rolling with some Permani sandwiches and their wings here for Super Bowl Sunday. Looks like we got some IBT family members in the chat already with us, Steve. We got Albert. Good evening, IBT. Good evening, Albert. Thanks so much for joining us. Albert, have you been to Permani sandwiches? Do they have Permani sandwiches? I believe Albert's from the great the great country up north, so I'm not sure if they have it up there, but Ben, we got Ben hanging out with us as well. Ben's from Vegas, so I guarantee he has not had Permani sandwiches. But I'm always seeing like on TikTok crazy Vegas foods that kind of come in my algorithm. So
yeah,
I went
Vegas.
I went there. I've talked about this on the show. I was food poisoned in like 2 days, so ruined my whole trip. So I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah. IBT Vegas trip for sure in the future.
Yeah.
Huge week on the channel last week, everyone. So I just want to say thank you so much to all of our regular listeners. As always, please like this video if you enjoy this type of content, and also subscribe if you're new. It's the easiest way to support us and what we're doing over here at IBT. So we greatly appreciate it. Steve, what do you say, though? Enough chitter chatter, and we should go ahead and jump right into some Would You Rather. What do you think?
Yeah, it's been a bit too chummy. Let's start to fight.
All right, let's go. Here we go.
Risking business, so that's fair to say. Are you that hard on the rise? We're chilling with a cold one. Feeling bold one, or hold back. Would you rather? This ain't no simple matter.
It ain't no simple matter. Would you rather, baby? We're talking 2025 fantasy football ADP from Underdog Fantasy. Would you rather? We're going to go through some rankings decisions as we start to put together our 2025 redraft and best ball rankings. We got 6 different player combinations we're going to get through, and then some pop culture, Super Bowl related questions that we'll get to at the end. And I want to start with the guys on the thumbnails, Brian Thomas Jr. or Malik Nabers. Currently, Brian Thomas Jr. being drafted at 10.4 overall. Malik Nabers 11.0. These are both former LSU teammates heading into year 2 of their NFL careers. And BTJ, I mean, what can you say about this guy? Definitely underrated coming in. Wide receiver 4 overall as a rookie. Wide receiver 12 on a points per game basis. 87 receptions. Nearly 1,300 yards. 10 touchdowns. I was playing with Mac Jones for some time during the backstretch. T-Law back in the thick of it. We got Liam Cohen, Duval calling the shots now as well. And then Malik Nabers on the other side of this argument, Steve. Wide receiver 6 overall as a rookie. Wide receiver 6 on a points per game basis. 109 receptions, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. We know Brian Dable is still calling the shots for this team, but the quarterback currently unknown, although the tea leaves kind of tell us it might be Shedeur Sanders throwing Nabers the ball. So with the information we have currently, would you rather draft Brian Thomas at his ADP or Malik Nabers at his ADP, which are basically neck and neck right around 10 and 11?
Yeah, so this is going to prove to be like, this is basically it is a would you rather, and it's would you rather have a stable high volume target versus an explosive big play maven, right? So like you said, 109 receptions. He had for Malik Nabers, 109 receptions on 170 targets. Insane. Right? Brian Thomas Jr. had 133 targets, I believe.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the target share, just as rookies, there was a 40 target difference. That's a massive like gap between the two. Fantasy points per game, Malik Nabers was at 18.2. Brian Thomas Jr. is at 16.7. There is really nothing other than touchdowns that is telling me that Brian Thomas Jr. had the better season than Malik Nabers. Now, the tea leaves are showing that Shedeur Sanders could be the QB of the future in New York. However, for those of you who have been watching Media Week down in the Bayou at the Super Bowl, there is a certain free agent quarterback floating around, and that name has now become attached to the New York Giants.
Sniffing around, yeah.
That should make Malik Nabers, I am not even kidding, the 101 in your fantasy football drafts. If Jameis Winston ends up the QB for the New York Giants, Malik Nabers is the wide receiver 1 and potentially the 101 player next year in fantasy drafts. Right? I don't know what Shedeur Sanders can do. I don't know what Cam Ward can do. So I'm not going to back that like that, but I know what Jameis Winston can do. Now, you're asking me if I'd rather Brian Thomas Jr. or Malik Nabers. I laid it out for you. Give me that floor. I love a good high floor, and it turns out that the ceiling is also just a bit higher. Malik Nabers, while he kind of went on a touchdown like embargo for the middle of the season, when he's on and when the offense flows through him, he is unstoppable. He's already like a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. This guy is just so talented. You cannot pass him up. I don't know why Brian Thomas Jr. is ahead of him because all the stats are pointing to Nabers being better. But if you can get him on that discount, you absolutely need to.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's Malik Nabers for me in this argument, Steve. And while I do love the explosivity that BTJ gave us as a rookie, and, you know, I like Liam Cohen, all jokes aside. I think he'll put together a great offense here in Jacksonville. But still, like, I can't pass up 170 targets. Like, that has wide receiver 1 overall upside, as you alluded to. And whether it's Jameis Winston, whether it's Danger Russ throwing the ball, or Shedeur Sanders, I don't really give a damn. I really don't. I think, I mean, this is a guy who was wide receiver 6 on a points per game basis with Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, you know, our buddy out there from the Italian side of New York City, and then also Drew Lock, who had a quick resurgence out there in New York as well. So I'm with you. I like BTJ. I cannot draft him in the first round where he's going because we have Christian Kirk who's coming back from injury, which I know Christian Kirk obviously not going to put a huge damper in things, but also we got Gabe Davis down there. We got Evan Ingram. Like, we got 2 good running backs too, and Liam Cohen showed that he likes to run the ball. He made Bucky Irving a top 15 running back at times, and Rachaad White still serviceable as well. So I'm absolutely with you there. I think Malik Nabers, the cleaner projection is there. So I'm going with Nabers, especially getting, you know, about a positional difference here, right? You know, right from about 10 to 11. So I'm with you on Nabers there. I think that's a great call. Let's keep at the wide receiver position. Let's get into Chris Olave going off the board at 57.5 ADP on Underdog, and Courtland Sutton going a few picks later, 59.8. These are 2 wide receivers who really went in the opposite direction in 2024. We know Chris Olave, talented guy coming out of Ohio State, heads into year 4, likely going to have Kellen Moore calling the shots. Derek Carr probably back at quarterback unless they take a huge cap hit there. Did miss 9 games with head injuries in 2024, but before that had 2 seasons of over 1,000 yards, but never went over 5 touchdowns in a season, and struggled when healthy in 2024. Wide receiver 55 on a points per game basis. We saw just a ton of points from the Saints early in the season, but a lot of those big plays were going to Rashid Shaheed and not someone like Chris Olave. Sutton, on the other hand, he's heading into year 8, has had twice the amount of years experience as Olave in the NFL. He's equipped with Bo Nix slinging him the rock, also Sean Payton calling the plays here, Steve, and had the best season he's had since 2019 in 2024. Career high in targets, receptions, also went back over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, 109 receptions, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. So I really like what we saw from Courtland Sutton this past year. Wide receiver 26 this past season in points per game, 15 overall. Where do you go here? Because it feels like if Olave's out there, he might be a little safer. But Sutton, the upside is real.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where I have to pick because it's the game. But in reality, it's neither. Neither guy is really worth the draft capital you have to spend on them right now. I don't know what's up with Chris Olave. I think he's plenty good. I just don't know why it's not translating the way it should translate. Like, yes, he's gone for 1,000 yards
before
twice.
the injuries, yeah.
It was, but it wasn't, right? Like, he should have been better. And I don't know why he wasn't better. He was like 1,000-yard receiver, which was fine, but like...
Never scored a bunch of touchdowns, yeah.
Never really scored a bunch of touchdowns. It was always kind of just like hovering around there.
It's kind of Derek Carr's MO though, right? Like he's kind of a guy who always like career low touchdown rate. Like it's always been right around that like 4.0, 4.3 number.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it is the quarterback he's attached to, but now he has all these head injuries, and like Chris Olave has a long history of concussions. So like that's concerning. Courtland Sutton had a good year. Like it was fine. It wasn't anything to write home about. But it's fine. I think give me Courtland Sutton just because his quarterback's better. And he's 2 picks cheaper, I guess. So that's great. But yeah, this is kind of an ugly situation. Like this is that part of the board where you try to go just somewhere else with a little bit more upside, right? Like that's the advice I would give to all our fantasy listeners out there. You got to chase the upside in these picks where you're looking at these like seasoned vets who you know what you're going to get out of them. And it's really like flex appeal at most.
Yeah.
You want to go find that guy that's going to maybe take that jump, right? That you're like waiting for, or a guy who maybe is coming off an injury that you know has top 12 upside. Like I bet Chris Godwin is going in this realm of picks, and that's where I would go.
Yeah, I'll probably go with Olave here, honestly. Like, I understand Sutton feels a little bit safer, right? Like definitely came out last season, has probably a little more upside too. But what I like with Olave is he's getting Kellen Moore potentially. Again, this is speculation. We're just kind of assuming Saints haven't hired a head coach. They can't tamper right now. We saw what happened with Jonathan Gannon getting tampered with a couple years ago when Eagles were in the Super Bowl. He never left the building in Arizona when they flew back. He just stayed there. They had to give up a draft pick. So Saints going by the book right now. But if it is Kellen Moore calling the plays here, Steve, we saw what he did a few seasons ago in Los Angeles where Keenan Allen rejuvenated himself, was worked all over the field, whether that was in short yardage out of the slot or on the outside as the X. I think Moore can get really creative with Chris Olave. So I will go with Olave because of that. But there are a ton of red flags, specifically the head injuries and Derek Carr, and just, the overall vibe of the Saints the past couple of years. I don't feel great about it either way, but I will take Olave because I just love Kellen Moore so much and what he's been able to do, really every stop he's had along the way here in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm excited for him to get his head coaching opportunity. I hope it's him. I think it's about time that we see him take the reins.
I mean, former Boise State quarterback goes to the Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry had him in the building. It seemed like a couple weeks ago, or at least on a Zoom call, and interviewed him. And he went with Brian Schottenheimer, which I probably a conversation for a different program, but I'm not, super excited about that. But Kellen Moore is a guy. He can craft an offense around the players he has, whether it was with the Chargers a couple years ago where he reinvigorates Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, or whether it was this year in Philadelphia where Saquon Barkley has one of the best seasons ever for a running back in the modern era. So
I mean, we should probably pump the brakes on like some of these comparisons. So, like Chris Olave isn't any of these guys, right? Like that's the problem.
Dude,
is that
he is though, Steve?
He's not.
I feel like you're forgetting this is a guy drafted in the top 20 NFL picks and had
I know what he
standout
was.
season.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said before. Is I know what he was supposed to be. He just wasn't. And he's no Keenan Allen. He's no AJ Brown. He's no Saquon Barkley. This guy is not a generational kind of talent. He's not really like a great separator. He's not an awesome route runner. He's fine. He's good. He's like a good wide receiver. I wouldn't be shocked if the Saints draft their next wide receiver one this year.
Wow. Okay. I think Olave is definitely that, but maybe on day 2 or day 3, they throw a dart because as we saw without really him and Shaheed, they don't have a lot there. In the pass catching realm. Taysom Hill tears that ACL, so they lose a weapon there as well.
Yeah, that was rough.
Let's move on. Let's talk about some rookie running backs, and let's talk about it from a best ball and redraft standpoint. Kaleb Johnson coming out of Iowa. This is a guy currently going 65.9 ADP overall. And we're matching him up against Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, 57.5 ADP for Hampton. So going a little bit less than a round sooner than his counterpart Johnson. Johnson, consensus All-American at Iowa, led the Big Ten in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns this past season. Also second in yards per attempt at 6.4 yards per carry, 6 foot, 225 pounds. The reason I throw out the YPC stat, I know that's often a misleading stat, especially coming out of the collegiate ranks, but let's think about it from this perspective. Like, nobody thought that Iowa was a team that was going to be chucking it down the field, right, consistently. And I think they figured out pretty quickly, like, this is Kaleb Johnson. Let's dare you to beat us. Let's stack the boxes. Let's see what's going to happen. We know McNamara is not going to beat us with his arm. And Kaleb Johnson just kept beating people, right? I mean, just a sensational season, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns. It kind of came, I don't want to say came out of nowhere because we knew Kaleb Johnson, has been a guy in this Iowa system for a while, but never got over 800 yards. So just a huge boost for him in his junior season. And then looking at Hampton here on the other side of this, Steve led the ACC in back-to-back years in rushing yards, rushing attempts, and finished second in touchdowns this year after leading the conference in rushing touchdowns the year before in 2023. And the reason I think this is an intriguing discussion is because I do like Kaleb Johnson better as a prospect. Yes, but in year one, could Hampton make a bigger difference because he had 38 receptions this past year, almost 400 receiving yards, while Kaleb Johnson, he's still a decent receiver. That's not a huge part of his game. So do you like the receiving upside of Hampton in year one, or do you like that Kaleb Johnson might just be a bell cow that gets himself on the field early and often?
I like Hampton. I'm gonna preface this by saying that.
Okay.
I like Hampton better. Listen, the world is going PPR, right? In the world of fantasy football, it's a PPR league. It changes the dynamic entirely. Unless you are Derrick Henry, if you don't catch passes, you're just not really going to get yourself to be a top running back in the league. It's just too hard. So give me a guy who can come out of the backfield, catch passes, a 3-down back, workhorse. I think a lot of times we hear that word thrown around for guys who are just bruisers. And there's a difference between being a bruiser and a workhorse.
True.
A workhorse means you are there on 80, 85, 90% of snaps. Saquon Barkley is a workhorse. Kyron Williams is a workhorse, right? That's what we're looking at when we say workhorse. You handle almost all the touches. Derrick Henry in his own weird way is a workhorse because when he's on the field, there's a really high likelihood he's going to touch the ball.
Right.
But Hampton is good in pass blocking. He's good in receiving. Kaleb Johnson doesn't really catch the ball, but being able to block keeps you on the field. And if you're talking best ball, if you're talking just 1 year, kind of who's going to give you the best option, it has to be the guy who was already a workhorse in the truest sense of the word for his team. That would be Omarion Hampton. And I don't see any reason for him to be behind Kaleb Johnson. I think the spread is about right. Kaleb Johnson is probably the better runner.
Yeah.
But the NFL's just changed, man. It's such a space game, and you've got to be able to catch the ball to make it worth your while in fantasy football. So Omarion Hampton being weirdly enough in the same kind of draft area as Chris Olave and Courtland Sutton, I think this would be the pick, right? This is a better pick overall. So this is not a knock on either of them. You can't really go wrong, I don't think. I think they're both going to be starting running backs, but then again, I thought for sure Trey Benson, Blake Corum, and guys like that were also going to be starting running backs. So, the fuck do I know sometimes? But if I have to pick, I'm going Omarion Hampton.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you there because I love Kaleb Johnson. You know me, dude. I mean, I'm on here all the time. I got a huge Big Ten bias. I love what Kaleb Johnson was able to do just because of those stacked boxes at Iowa there. But Omarion Hampton, he fits the mold as someone who could see time as a rookie because of what you said, because of the pass blocking, because he can get in on third down. Whether it's Jahmyr Gibbs as a rookie who was able to put up sensational numbers because he was able to get in on third down and still get your receptions, or whether it was Breece Hall as a rookie, or there's DeAndre Swift as a rookie. These are the guys that if I'm going to be shooting my shot on someone in the late 5th round, early 6th round, I need to have pass catching upside. Because there is a chance that Kaleb Johnson has a Trey Benson year and he just doesn't get on the field. There's also a chance that he gets drafted to the Dallas Cowboys in the 2nd or 3rd round, and we're saying giddy up. But aside from that, I think you're dead on. I think Hampton again is a safer pick for PPR format. So I think even in a half point PPR league, you have to go with him even though you are paying about a round difference here. So
yeah, that's where I'm at too. It just, like you said, the opportunity needs to be there. And so often for these rookies,
yeah,
the opportunity comes when you are playing behind their bruiser. They
yeah,
want thunder and lightning, right? They want that Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara.
yeah,
You got to be Alvin Kamara in that situation, right? Even Alvin Kamara, as good as he is, had to be Alvin Kamara to Mark Ingram's bruiser,
yeah,
right? Like it
yeah,
was hard for him to get
yeah,
on the field. This is the NFL. You need to have a lot of skill sets to get on the field and have a coach trust you,
yeah.
because running backs, unless you are a round one pick, you just don't have the draft capital to back yourself up
Mm-hmm.
to be like, I will get all the playing time I need. There's no guarantee. These guys could really be
Right.
a third round pick each.
Right.
And that's not a ton of draft capital that's going to guarantee them playing time. And even guys like not DeAndre Swift, I'm sorry, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's still splitting time. So you need to have a skill set that differentiates you, and that's Omarion Hampton.
Agreed with you there. Let's stay at the running back position. Isiah Pacheco or Tony Pollard. Who would you rather draft? Isiah Pacheco currently going at an ADP of 82.0. Tony Pollard right behind him, 85.9. Pacheco missed 3 games this past year, or in 2023, excuse me, and then 9 this past year. But still, just a season removed away from 935 rushing yards, 44 receptions. So does have a little bit of a dual threat skill set. Finished that 2023 season running back 14 in points per game. Pollard, on the other hand, these are his finishes over the past 4 years. Running back 28, running back 7, running back 15, and running back 21 here in 2024, where he's the running back 22 in points per game as well. Steve, this is a really tough one, man, because I am thinking, I have an inkling the Chiefs will draft a running back, even if it's on day 3, because how loaded this class is. So I don't think Pacheco will be alone in competition. We've seen him kind of, be absurd a little bit from Kareem Hunt, who's come in down the stretch. And it doesn't feel like Pacheco's kind of been at 100%, even though he's been back for quite some time from this injury.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard, meanwhile, it's not the best offensive line. It's not the best team in general that you think is going to put up a ton of points. Tyjae Spears is there, but Tony Pollard's super, super productive in Tennessee, over 260 carries, and also just had a ton of targets, 257. I mean, this is a guy over 300 touches last year. So do you really pass that up for the chance of Pacheco?
I don't. I go Tony Pollard here, and it's not with like, I'm not like pounding the table for Tony Pollard.
Sure.
That's
sure.
like,
Yeah, that feels a little
honestly,
dirty.
like it's like, right? Like, I mean, Tyjae Spears looked like he was kind of prying that job away from Tony Pollard a little bit
At the end of the
toward the end of
season,
the
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
But Isiah Pacheco lost his job to the ghost of Kareem Hunt. So, like, it's not like either of these guys has a chokehold on the position right now, right? Like, these guys very well could both be RB2s on their own team. And, like, what are you going to do about it? It's like, right? So, I don't know what this injury did to Pacheco. What I've seen is that his acceleration was never great to begin with.
Right.
His top end speed is fine. It's his acceleration that's kind of shit. Tony Pollard, on the other hand, seems to accelerate just fine, and then like there is no top end speed for some reason. It used to be there when he was a Cowboy. Whatever happened, and he lost his top end speed. Good pass catcher, not great. Good runner, not great. Gets to the end zone at a decent clip. He's fine. He's fine. I think if one coaching staff is going to be loyal to him, it would be Tony Pollard and the Titans versus
because they signed him.
Yeah, they signed him. Like Pacheco, they're already tilted.
7th round draft capital. Yeah.
They tilted. They tilted already, and Kareem Hunt is going to start in the Super Bowl. And like, there's no bigger stage to show what you got. And if someone's trying to convince me that Isiah Pacheco is like their guy, based on what? Like, they brought a dude who like was at home eating Pizza Hut.
He could have been sitting with us on the IVT podcast.
You know what I mean? Like, this dude wasn't on another team, and they traded for him. Like, no one wanted him. Nobody wanted Kareem Hunt. Unsigned till the middle of the season. They bring him in because like he knows the system, and he never lets go of the starting job.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's troublesome.
Yeah, I agree with you. Pollard feels a bit safer. Pacheco probably more upside, right? Because we have seen season, that 2023 season, we're not far removed from there. But I just think with the 7th round draft capital, the injury history that's starting to pile up here a little bit as well for him, that it's not looking great. It's not looking great. And I don't mind taking a shot on either one of these guys where they're going in ADP. Like if you need a running back too, this is a fine spot, but we don't know who the handcuff is going to be to Pacheco right now. We at least know, like, hey, if you're going to go out and you're going to draft Tony Pollard, you could probably go to grab Tyjae Spears 5 or 6 rounds later too and just handcuff yourself.
You have to.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where we are. I think we'll both go Tony Pollard on that, but it's not like we feel great about it, right? Like it's not a great feeling by any means. Let's move to the quarterback position, Steve. I want to talk about 2 of the higher priced quarterbacks currently in Underdog Fantasy ADP currently. Jayden Daniels versus Jalen Hurts. Daniels coming off that rookie season, 37.7 ADP. So right at the beginning of the 4th round. Jalen Hurts a few picks later, 43.5 average ADP right now. And this is also as close as it gets in fantasy points per game this past year. Jayden Daniels, 21.5 points per game. Jalen Hurts, 21.3 points per game. The interesting thing about Daniels, though, I feel like is he had this just this great season from a passing standpoint, 25 touchdowns, where Hurts has never had more than 23 passing touchdowns. But the caveat here is that Jalen Hurts has finished QB 8 or better in his 4 years as a starter, Steve, because he's averaged 13 rushing touchdowns. You know you're going to get rushing touchdowns as long as the tush push is around. Even with Saquon Barkley in the backfield, they're proving they can still punch it in with Jalen Hurts, whether that's from 5 yards, 15 yards, or a quarter of an inch as well. So this is a really big toss-up. Do you like the, a little bit less of rushing upside with Daniels, but the higher passing upside? Or do you like Jalen Hurts and the consistency he's giving you with the tush push?
This is a really tough one, right? Because
it is
the rushing upside, right? Like Jayden Daniels is a better runner, but Jalen Hurts is a better scorer on the ground because of the tush push. Here's what's exciting about Jayden Daniels, right? Is I saw this and it's 100% true. The Commanders have $93 million in cap space this offseason.
Wow.
This was, this season, the worst supporting cast Jayden Daniels will have for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That leads me to lean Jayden Daniels. I think they're going to put another wide receiver on this team that's going to be a big-time threat. I don't think it's out of the question that Jayden Daniels throws 30, 35 touchdowns next season.
Probably going to let Cliff back, too, because Cliff doesn't seem like he's going anywhere.
Yeah, Cliff doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. This team looks like they're going to go all in, right? Like, they have to. I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Their window's
their defense
open,
needs some work, but you need to put some – you have $93 million in cap space. Go get people. I wouldn't be shocked if they attack their defense by trading for Myles Garrett. That first-round pick is gone this year, right? Trade for Myles Garrett, bring him in, and then sign T. Higgins or something stupid like that. Like, go spend your money because right now your window is wide open. Jayden Daniels is dirt cheap, and he's never going to be this cheap again. Jalen Hurts, he's not a good passer, man. I don't know what his issue is, but he's just not it. Like,
that's a little harsh.
You know what? I don't love hitching my wagon to the Jalen Hurts train all that much.
Mm-hmm.
Rushing touchdowns are great. I'd like someone who, just in case he doesn't score a rushing touchdown, has other means of producing for me. That just doesn't seem like Jalen Hurts. Jayden Daniels can kind of do it from all 3 phases, or like phases of passing and rushing, and he will score rushing touchdowns. Like, don't get me wrong. So, like, he doesn't have the tush push, but that's fine, right? Like, who cares? So, give me Jayden Daniels. If they're both going in the 4th round, I'd rather Jayden Daniels. I think he's more consistent.
Yeah, and I think with Kelly Moe potentially leaving the Eagles offense, like, we're only a year removed away from Jalen Hurts having a pretty abysmal season overall. He had over 13 interceptions in 2023 when they were kind of hodgepodging the offensive coordinator together, shifting between different coordinators left and right. So I do worry, like, hey, I don't know who the OC is. It's not like if Shane Steichen was fired by the Colts and we know like they could bring him back, I'd be probably more in on Jalen Hurts here. But I don't really want to get I'm not drafting. I don't think either of these guys at ADP just because there's more guys I like. Yeah, there's more guys like. Give me Drake May. I think he's like QB 15 or 16. Like give me these guys down the board a little bit. But I so yeah, I think I'm with you on Jayden Daniels. I think it just feels more consistent. I think he has more room to grow, and I kind of took a shot at his rushing too, and it's more just the rushing touchdowns. Still had almost 900 rushing yards too, right? Yeah, I think you're on the right side of this, Steve. I actually have in my mock draft that I put out last week for Fantasy Pros, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, I have them going Trey Harris at the end of the first round. So if they do keep that pick, Trey Harris coming in for Ole Miss could be a guy who, firmly supplants himself as the wide receiver 2 in this offense. And I think it's only like wheels up from here. Like we, you and I were betting Diami Brown and Zacchaeus this postseason. So and he made those guys good, right?
Yeah, he made a lot of guys good. I mean, Diami Brown looked every bit like a wide receiver in the NFL.
Freaking Zach Ertz turned back the clock against the Eagles, 15 targets. I mean, that was insane.
I mean, I think there's going to be some things they need to address for sure, right? It absolutely has to be addressed, but they have the money to do it. And that's exciting. You want teams to do this. You want the Commanders to do this offseason what the Bears did last offseason, right? And they just bring in tons of talent.
Yeah.
Go shop, go poach some older players from other franchises, bring them in, get Jayden Daniels some help.
Last would you rather question here in the fantasy football segment. George Kittle or Sam LaPorta. Kittle currently going 50.1 ADP overall, and Sam LaPorta going 60.2. Kittle, the tight end 1 in points per game this past year. Great season form, his 4th 1,000-yard season. Also, his 2nd season over 8 touchdowns. Just been a consistent threat when he's been on the field. Has missed some games here and there. Wasn't perfect this year. Missed 2 games. Missed a game the year before, 2 the year before, 3 the year before. So known to me, you're probably not getting 17 games out of him. You're probably getting, 14, 15 games out of him. LaPorta, on the other hand, was tight end 9. But had just 1 game in double digits through week 7. He cooked you. If you drafted him and you did not trade him early, you probably did not make the playoffs given his ADP, but he was the tight end 1 as a rookie. So we know the upside's there. They are losing Ben Johnson in Detroit, though. So are you taking the discount on Sam LaPorta, 10 picks after George Kittle, or are you chasing that tight end 1 season in Mr. Kittle?
Yeah, I'm going Kittle. It's all day long. And I tried to warn people off of Sam LaPorta this offseason. It just didn't look sustainable. And now he's losing Ben Johnson, and there's too many mouths to feed. And they don't want to throw that much in Detroit, right? Jared Goff only throws it 25. They want to throw it 25 times a game. There's not enough for him to feed. And LaPorta is so touchdown dependent. He's not dynamic with the ball in his hands like Kittle is. I'm not saying he's bad with the ball in his hands. He's just not he's not going to light it up. George Kittle's a force. And he has been for a long time. If you're taking LaPorta in this situation, you're telling me that George Kittle's going to fall off a cliff, right? That's what you're telling me, because Debo's fallen off the cliff. Brandon Ayuk, who knows what he is, right?
Right.
Ricky Pearsall, I don't know what he is. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know what's going on with him, right? There's one constant in that offense, and it's George Kittle.
George Kittle, baby, yeah.
So, we're there with it, okay? We're there.
Yeah.
Me, Penta, and George Kittle, we are all in on what's going on. So I'm going to take George Kittle. I'm going to do so happily. I mean, the man is a freak of nature. He averaged 14.2 yards per reception and 8 touchdowns. That's 2 more yards per reception than LaPorta had. So everything about Kittle is just better. Every number, every metric is better. I can't justify taking LaPorta over him. Now, I want to preface this by saying, you know what? Like our good friend Eric likes to say, these one-off positions. Wait.
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah. I mean, if this was a question, could I take George Kittle at 50.1 or whatever the hell Tyler Warren's ADP is, probably closer to 100. I'm taking Warren every chance we get. And, again, we've talked a lot about Tyler Warren. I don't need to share that bias on this episode here too, but I think I'm with you. If I have to make a decision, I'd rather not draft either one of these mid-round tight ends, but if I have to go with one of them, it is George Kittle for me. I just don't know what the absence of Ben Johnson is going to do
Yeah,
for
that throws it into chaos.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely there with you. Jameson Williams took another step forward this past year, and LaPorta was kind of just that consistent, like, hey, we need 7 yards, we can go to LaPorta. But he wasn't breaking big plays like he kind of was as a rookie, and the touchdown regression came back. So I do feel safer with Kittle. So I'm there with you. Let's go ahead. Let's turn to a couple fun questions for us. First one, Super Bowl question for you. We kind of touched on this earlier, but wings and pizza or Mexican food for the Super Bowl, Steve? What would you rather have here?
Ooh. So I do love Mexican food. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I am like a fiend for Mexican food. So I want to say this, because my friends and family and boyfriend will probably hear this at some point. So I have to be honest. I am a picky eater, notoriously. I'm a notoriously
really?
picky eater. Yes, I don't eat like any vegetables at all. Like, I don't like when weird consistencies in my food.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a really picky eater.
Okay.
Like, it's bad. So Mexican food for me is like
Tough.
chicken, cheese, sour cream,
Yeah.
on a tortilla. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of it, right? I do love Mexican food though. I will fuck up a Chipotle bowl every day.
Yeah.
It's a sad bowl, but it's mine. It makes me happy. But this is
Yeah.
a wings and pizza kind of thing. On the Super Bowl, it's just what goes right. It feels right. It tastes right.
What do you get on your pizza? Just pepperoni?
Like pepperoni or buffalo chicken, right? Like,
Okay.
it's nothing too crazy.
Okay.
I'm a sucker for pepperoni pizza though, and I used to hate pizza growing up too. Like, growing up, I was not a pizza fan. I did not like pizza.
What? Oh my God, your poor parents, they couldn't feed you anything.
Yeah, like I had to get like a sub. Like, I always had to have like a steak and cheese sub instead of a pizza because I didn't like pizza. There was something about like the tomato sauce. Like, I didn't like it. Now I do like it, thankfully. I have grown into my fandom of pizza. But a good chicken wing to me is like my favorite food.
Yeah.
Like, I
Okay.
love chicken wings, so I'm always gonna go with wings over just
Okay.
about anything.
We got our producer Kyle Scott in the back end. Kyle, you got any thoughts here on wings and pizza or Mexican food for the Super Bowl? I know you and I, we used to tear up some Mexican food back in our IUP days. I can't even remember what the place was called now. Maybe you know a little bit better than I do.
Tres Amigos.
Tres Amigos, that's it. How could I forget? Thank you. Sorry, most like mainstream Mexican name you could get.
Yeah, I mean, I do love Mexican food. Who doesn't? But with the Super Bowl, wings and pizza just feels like the turkey and stuffing.
Yeah.
It feels like the traditional. It just feels right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Mexican. I'm not gonna fault you for it if you have it at your Super Bowl party, but you gotta also have wings and pizza is the thing.
Yeah. Also, I've heard some horror stories of some people eating like some tacos at some family functions, and they end up being like the tacos that also have like pork in them, and then it's just like a constant trip back and forth from the shitter. So I'm not trying to take that gamble. I need to hear Tommy on the call and need to settle in here. So yeah, I'm with you. Wings or pizza for me. See you,
100%.
Mexican food. Another question for you, Steve. Would you rather Cooper Kupp land in Pittsburgh, Baltimore, or Washington? Where do you want the former Rams wide receiver, currently still a Rams wide receiver? But we did get news today that they are exploring a trade for him as soon as this week.
I want him in the announcing booth. That's where I want. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one's trading for Cooper Kupp. Let's put that right out there.
Not than $20 million clip.
Not at that clip. They're gonna have to cut him.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna have to eat that salary somehow. Like, I don't know how they do it, but like, they're gonna have to do something. This isn't happening. He's gonna wind up somewhere as a free agent. But if I'm given these 3 options, he just doesn't help that much. I mean, it just looks like the wheels are coming off.
Dude,
so bad.
Pittsburgh, he would be huge.
I guess
because
I guess Pittsburgh is probably the pick.
we just don't have a
they're
possession
so
guy.
devoid. Yeah, they need somebody, anybody to like get them 5 yards.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I would want him to land. I wish he could retire a Ram. I think Cooper Kupp has earned that.
Mhm.
This is a cold business, right? Like, that's just the reality of it.
Cold business. Yeah.
Like, this man was like Superman.
Triple crown winner, Super Bowl MVP. I mean,
like, this man carried you to a Super Bowl season.
Yeah.
And this is how you're gonna do him? And then you're gonna cut him? Like, that's even worse. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, we'll find
Yeah.
a trade partner for you. No, you won't. You're going to cut Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I
it's
hope
tough.
they like kind of just go, you know what? We'll just rework your contract, like, because we're gonna have to eat it anyway and keep you around.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. You know that when you have a guy like Puka Nakua, it kind of makes this blow a little bit softer for the organization, for the fan base.
Yeah,
But
but
I think if Cooper Kupp lands in Pittsburgh, regardless of the quarterback situation, I think it's a home run for both fantasy football purposes and just NFL purposes. Because I mean, the only guy we have over the middle is Pat Fryermuth. Like that's literally
yeah,
it. George Pickens primarily is always playing on the outside. He's a guy great in contested situations, can break a big play over the middle if he catches a slant and goes, but isn't used over the middle a lot. So someone like Cooper Kupp would fill a huge void in Pittsburgh. And whether it's looking at Kupp this year during the trade deadline or throwing out some offers, apparently allegedly for Darius Slayton and Adam Thielen, or throwing the book and trying to get someone like Brandon Ayuk. The Steelers have been looking for a serviceable wide receiver 2 or a good wide receiver 1 for years. So yeah, for me, it's Pittsburgh. I don't think he would move the needle for me in Baltimore. Like him and Zay Flowers are kind of similar players, and Washington, I just think, can do better with the cap space they have, as you alluded to earlier.
yeah, I agree. I just don't. This is sad. This is sad to think
Oh,
about, right? Because he's just. I don't think
pour
Cooper
one
Kupp's
out.
a needle
Pour
mover
one out,
anywhere.
baby. Yeah,
And
pour one
yeah,
out.
like pour one up with Cooper Kupp because I think it's just over. And this is gonna be one of those like. You watch it. You know what I mean? You watch it like dads are watching with their kids going, this man used to be so good, son. Like, you don't understand. Like, this ain't the Cooper Kupp I knew, right? Like, that's just like, yeah, it's just bad. It's sad.
All right, last would you rather question that you have here for us, Steve. We're going to be talking about some Marvel movies, some new ones that we just got a trailer today for Fantastic Four and also Captain America about to be out later this month as well. So break these movies down for us a little bit, what we can expect cast-wise, plot, scenario-wise, and where you would go if you have the opportunity to watch one of these Marvel movies over the next few months.
Yeah, Marvel's cooking right now. So let's start with the one that's coming out most or closest to today, Captain America Brave New World. Here is the summary of it. Following the election of Thaddeus Ross as president of the United States, Sam Wilson finds himself at the center of an international incident and must work to stop the true masterminds behind it. This cast is full of heavy hitters. You have Anthony Mackie as Captain America himself, Danny Ramirez taking over the mantle as Falcon, Harrison Ford taking over as Thaddeus Ross, Shira Haas and Giancarlo Esposito round out the cast. Those are some heavy hitters. That's a big budget movie. I saw the most recent and final trailer for Captain America.
Yeah.
I went to the movies this past weekend. I saw Companion. It was wonderful. This was the trailer they should have dropped because it looked gritty and grounded, right? Then you have Fantastic Four, First Steps. On a 1960s inspired retro futuristic Earth, the Fantastic Four must protect their world from planet-devouring cosmic being Galactus and the Silver Surfer. They've brought in two of the biggest villains in Fantastic Four history. This cast, Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards / Mr. Fantastic. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. Eben Moss Backrack as Ben Grimm or The Thing. And Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, a.k.a. the Human Torch. And Julia Garner is the Silver Surfer. Julia Garner, for those of you at home, she was just in Wolfman. She played the wife in Wolfman. There's also the tease of the appearance of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. I got goosebumps. Talking about it. Like,
You like that? You like him playing a different character in the Marvel?
The second they
Marvel
announced it, I was like
universe?
all in. I was all in, right? I've been all in on RDJ as Doctor Doom. I'm in. Because of the goosebumps factor, I would have to say Fantastic Four. I do think Captain America is going to be an excellent movie, though. I don't want to knock it, right? I think this movie is going to be so much better than people think it is. And I'm so sad that it's probably not going to do the box office numbers that it should for a myriad of reasons. But you cannot go wrong with either of them. I am a big Marvel fan. I do criticize it when it's necessary. I think the style a Fantastic Four looks really cool. I do think we're gonna see them brought into the MCU proper.
Right. That was kind of my question. I'm not sure how that's all going to go about.
I bet like Galactus is Galactus is a one of one in the multiverse. There is no other Galactus, so I think he can kind of jump multiverses.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll see him do that, and the Fantastic Four will kind of get brought with him.
Okay.
But the promise of Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby and Joseph Quinn and RDJ and just so many talented actors in that. I am so excited to finally see the Fantastic Four in the MCU. What about you?
Oh man, it's tough because like I kind of love the look of Harrison Ford and kind of becoming a little bit of a Hulk type situation.
He's Red Hulk.
Yeah, Red Hulk. So that's kind of lit. Like I do like that whole situation, and I think what they've done with the whole Captain America story and you know how the original Captain America goes out like he did and goes back in time, gets to live his life with his loved one and passes it on to Sam here. I love that story. I think it's a great story. I'm excited to see kind of this next evolution of it, but at the same time, you kind of got me at Pedro Pascal, baby. Like this is such a star-studded cast. I don't know much about the female lead. I haven't kept up with her work as much, but also just looks like this is going to be a banger. So if it makes sense timeline wise and how they kind of fit this back into the MCU at the end of the day, I don't know how I feel about Robert Downey Jr. kind of making a different appearance as a different character in the MCU, but as a whole, I'm very excited for it. So I'll also go with Marvel's Fantastic Four. Kyle, I know you're not a ton huge Marvel guy, but you got any thoughts in the back end here? I know you're a big movie guy in general and are familiar with both these casts we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I do. The prospect of Harrison Ford as a Red Hulk is just kind of very hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But I did watch the trailer for Fantastic Four today, and I am a fan of the retro futuristic styling of that. So I think I would probably be more interested to actually watch Fantastic Four.
Okay. All right. We'll love to hear it, man. Guys, let's go ahead. Let's shift gears, though. We're going to get into some betting. We're going to talk Super Bowl best bets here coming on in between bets.
Between bets. Between bets.
Between bets, we win, you win, we all win. That's what we do here. We try to make you guys better, smarter sports bettors in the NFL markets. It was a tough conference championship week for us. Not going to lie, we struck out a little bit, but excited to fire some bets back up here for the fine people out there. And Steve, I want to start with the ATS and Moneyline market. This is a spread I'm afraid to pick. Honestly, I'm not picking a game pick here, but you're intrigued specifically by the Eagles getting 1.5 points down here in the Bayou. What are you seeing from them, and why are you taking a shot at them for -110 at DraftKings?
Yeah, I also want to take a moment and talk about our opening video for Between Bets. That person has never played craps before in their life. I don't know how to play craps, but I know you got to throw those dice against the wall, and they kind of just like threw it right in front of them. So I have a little problem with that. But the Eagles plus 1.5 points is -110 on DraftKings. I just think the Eagles are the better team. I think they're the better team this year. I think it's finally time anyone, they got to take down the Chiefs, right? They came up just short. So close before. And you know what, man? I know they're not the Lurs, but they are a Pennsylvania team. So I have to think in your heart, you are rooting for them. Yes.
Yeah. Fiance's an Eagles fan. Her whole family's Eagles fans. My uncle is. So unlike Kyle, I root for all Pennsylvania teams. I not like I'm not a bandwagon fan or anything, but if a Pennsylvania team is winning,
it is your
I'm
home
winning.
team. It's a much more home team than the Kansas City Chiefs, who are obviously from Missouri, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
Like, and I like your fiance. Your fiance is wonderful. I'm a big fan. So I'll root for the team that she wants to win. One of my best friends in the world is a huge Eagles fan. And you know what? We need someone other than the fucking Chiefs, man. I just can't do it. I do think they're the better team. I think top to bottom, this team is better. The running game is going to be the difference. Saquon Barkley is unstoppable. And man, I thought the Commanders were going to put up a fight. This team beat the brakes off the Commanders. The Chiefs don't beat the brakes off anyone. They win in these infuriating ways.
Yeah. Yep.
Like
missed kicks, penalties.
Mark Andrews forgetting how to hold on to the ball.
Not spotting the ball correctly on fourth down.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird fuckery going on with the Chiefs that I don't think they're as good as even getting to the Super Bowl. I am surprised they're in the Super Bowl. The Eagles are beating teams and beating them bad. They are stomping teams into dust. Saquon Barkley does not look human right now. And then you add to that sure, you could take away A.J. Brown, but you got Devonta Smith. Sure, you could take away Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, but you still have Dallas Goedert to deal with in the passing game, right? This team is deep. The defense, that defensive line. If Patrick Mahomes has a weakness, we've seen it when he's lost Super Bowls. It's because of pass rush. If you can pressure Mahomes and stay true to your gaps, stay true to your assignments, your containment on the outside. And now the Eagles have Jalen Carter up the middle.
Right.
So now you have Josh Sweat on one side. I'm forgetting the pass rusher on the other side that's coming. Is it Reddick?
You'll get Milton Williams, and then also at the same time, you're also potentially going to see Brandon Graham back. We're not 100% sure on his stats.
You're collapsing the pocket from the outside, and you have Jalen Carter with the push from the interior, and that interior pass rush is so important. You have Bond as one of your leaders at the linebacker position. Darius Slay is still an elite cornerback in this league. And then you add the two rookies in who are playing out of their mind good cornerback right now. The only place the Chiefs are better than the Eagles is at the quarterback position.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't see how the Eagles don't win this game. The better team should win this game. If the better team doesn't win this game, I'm going to throw myself into the fucking river outside of my apartment because I will not listen to this Mahomes is better than Brady slander. I won't do it. I won't hear of it. Let me say this about that. Now I'm on it. Now I'm mad. Now I'm mad. Mahomes had his chance to prove that he was better than Brady. Right? He was at the peak of his powers. He was already Patrick Mahomes. He went up against Brady as a Patriot. Brady beat him in Kansas City. And then he went up against old man Tom Brady on the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. And he had his... It was right there, ripe for the taking. The football gods put it on a platter and said, Patrick, take it. And Tom Brady beat the shit out of Patrick Mahomes. Don't come at me with this Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom Brady. Don't put up a different world. They're like, oh, in his first 7 seasons as a starter, look at the numbers. It's a different world. Don't come at me with that.
Yeah,
Tom Brady transcended football. He said, I'm done dominating in this conference. I'm going to go win a Super Bowl in that conference. I'm going to leave the greatest coach of all time. I'm going to go over there to a team that is just perpetually fine.
Yeah, right.
They were 9-8 the season before, or 8-9 the season before.
Right. Jameis
had a great statistical season.
30 for 30, baby. Yeah. Steve, I'm with you here. I do think the Eagles are the better team. What concerns me from the Chiefs is they've stabilized the offensive line a little bit by kicking Tooney out to offensive tackle. So I think that does help, but I think Jalen Carter up the middle scares me now that you don't have Tooney playing guard. So I think maybe we see a little bit of a break in that. I'll talk about kind of where I think that could lead to from a prop perspective later on, but I think you might be on the right side of this, but just history is it's hard for me to bet against the Chiefs, right? That's where this comes back to me. So I'm not on, a game pick for this game. It's too close for me, but I completely understand where you're going from. I want to jump to the total market where you're also on the under 48.5 points. What are you kind of seeing out of here? This a score last time. Both these teams were in the 30s when they played together in the Super Bowl, but very different teams now, very run-oriented on both sides of the ball. Saquon Barkley, as you mentioned, just an absolute clinic this season, 2,000 total yards on the ground. And then in addition to that, Kareem Hunt's been a guy that the Eagles, with him and Pacheco, are kind of just going back and forth with.
Yeah. So this time, these teams, when they met in the Super Bowl last time, were offensive juggernauts. That's what they hung their hats on. This season, they are both leaning on their defense, and Philadelphia is leaning on Saquon Barkley. Now, here's the problem. Here's where this bet may not hit. Saquon Barkley took his first touch 60 yards for a touchdown in the conference championship. If Saquon Barkley gets going, here's the thing, right? The Eagles have shown, like they did against the Commanders, they are not going to sit and let you hang around. They want to step on your throat. They want to score points. But this is not a big offensive team, right? Like they are and they aren't. They want to control the ball. The best way to win is to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, put up enough points that you're ahead, and then you just kill the clock, right? Because you don't want him to have the ball with one possession because it's just going to turn into fuckery. I think these teams are going to come in. They're going to play so hard. And these defenses are proud defenses. These teams are built on the backs of their defenses. I just don't think it's going to be that high scoring of a game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles win this game, and I do think they're going to, I think it's going to be by a solid margin. I don't think it's going to be a 3-point game. I think it's going to be like a 10-point, 14-point win.
Yeah, because Chiefs don't lose close games, right? Like
they don't lose close games; they lose big.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see another repeat of like that Tampa Bay Super Bowl,
sure,
where Mahomes just can't get it going. The wide receivers can't get open. It's hard for them to move the ball down the field. You almost are guaranteed that Travis Kelce is going to be double teamed this entire game, and I just don't see like Xavier Worthy. Thank you. Getting as open as he's been. I see the Eagles coming in with a defensive game plan that's similar to what Todd Bowles did a few years ago.
And Worthy's been running a lot of the slot the last couple weeks, and that's a place where Cooper DeJean's kind of made his mark as a nickel cornerback in this league so far.
And DeJean's fast.
Oh, yeah. And the trends are supporting you on the under here, Steve. Currently, Philadelphia 11-9 to the under this season, 55% of their games going towards that under. Kansas City 11-8 to the under this season, 57.9% of the time as well. I do think we see at least 40 points in this game. I'll talk about that later in my parlay of the week, but I think 48.5 is a big number. Again, I'm going to stay clear of this just because this is something that they could start trading shots at some point, kind of like how the Chiefs and Buffalo game went down towards the end of that. But absolutely, I think you're on the sharp side of this once again. I would like to go to the player prop market here. I got a couple for y'all. And I want to go to Patrick Mahomes over on his rushing yards first, 28.5 rushing yards for Mahomes. And look, I kind of talked about how I believe Jalen Carter is going to be a huge cog to this up front defensive front for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think he's going to flush Mahomes out of the pocket. I think Mahomes is going to have to run. And the reason I like this 28.5 line over our friends from FanDuel right now is Patrick Mahomes in his 4 Super Bowl appearances, he's averaging 43 rushing yards per Super Bowl. He's hit this over in all 4 of them. Coming off a game where he just rushed for 43 yards on 11 attempts, I like him to do it again. When the game's on the line, he boots, scoots, and boogies with the best of them. So give me Patrick Mahomes over 28.5 rushing yards. I'm going to stay kind of in that quarterback market, Steve. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. I think coming off a game with 3 rushing touchdowns and scoring on the ground in 2 straight games, and in 7 of the last 11 games, also 7 in the last 10 games and 11 in the last 15 games, 73% of them. I was expecting to get Jalen Hurts anytime TD, like minus 125, minus 130, I thought would be a
Yeah.
fair number. So minus 110, not have to
That's
pay
a great
much.
number.
Yeah, to not have to pay much juice. Like, keep in mind, the last time he faced Kansas City in the Super Bowl, he scored 3 rushing touchdowns, one very early on in that game because it was part of my parlay that I cashed that day, I remember. So that was before Saquon Barkley, but I still think he can pop one in with a tushy potentially as well. So the cool thing about getting this at minus 110 at DraftKings, Steve, they're also offering a 100% TD free bet right now as well. So whatever your unit size is on DraftKings that you're usually playing, they'll offer you. It's not like a no sweat bet. It's, hey, if you're betting $10 on a touchdown market, they're going to give you $10 in bonus bets right back to you right away, whether you hit it or not.
Wow.
So that's a great offer.
That's
We
pretty
actually,
great.
yeah, if you guys want to get invested with DraftKings, we actually have a link in the bio or in the description of this episode. So make sure you guys are supporting them over there. I'm going to put this together now in a parlay. This is my Seth something to talk about parlay because we're going to give them something to talk about. We're going to give them something to talk about. Talk about love, Steve. Talk about love, baby. Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown, minus 115. Patrick Mahomes, over 28.5 rushing yards, minus 110. I'm taking the over 39.5 at minus 390. Put these legs together. It's plus 290 over at FanDuel. The last 5 Super Bowls, including 4 with the Chiefs, have gone over 40 points. 10 last 12 also gone over 40 points. So I'm going to take that alt line on that over of 39.5. I'm going to put that together, my 2 favorite player props. I'm going to get my plus 290 payout over at FanDuel. Let's cash, baby.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So two other ones. I'm not going to go into any explanation, but just a couple rapid fires for you guys that I'd watch out for. Dallas Goedert, Kansas City, very leaky to the tight end position. One of the most fantasy point friendly positions they've been giving up this year. So I do like him. Also, I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with Kareem Hunt, whether I want to take his potentially a rushing over on his yards or his carries. So those are 2 other guys I like. Steve, you're kind of taking a page out of my book, though. You're like, hey, fuck this all. I'm not getting cute. I'm going to take the best player on the field to do some damage here. You like Saquon Barkley over 109.5 rushing yards, minus 110 at FanDuel Sportsbook. What are you seeing over there, man?
Yeah, doesn't it feel like he's going to rip off like an 80-yarder in this game? Like, don't you just feel that like in your bones?
Maybe. I also, you're talking about the guy who had the 123.5 last week. And
I thought that was high.
Well,
I thought that was so high.
I
right?
know,
that's
but
a number.
He ripped off a gainer he ripped off a 65-yarder the first time he touched the ball and still didn't get it.
Exactly. But 123 is so high because that is a number where you cannot get there and still have a great game. 109.5, that's just what he's going to do, right? Like, it's just he's that good. And the Chiefs aren't the best against the run. Like, they're good, but they're not, like, elite. They're much harder to throw against than they are to run against. And it's just numbers, man. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Saquon touches the ball in the run game 25 times.
He's hit it. He's hit this prop in 8 of the last 10 games, too. So,
yeah, that's 80% of the time he's doing this, and it's still minus 110. I don't understand it, but I'm taking it happily because I do think Saquon is the best player in this game. Period.
And the cool thing about the FanDuel offering too, like it's 3 yards shorter than everyone else, right? You're getting 109.5. You only need 110. Everywhere else is right around 113. So yeah, the Chiefs have been good against running backs. I will say that Chris Jones has been stuffing people up the middle. So I think we're going to have to see some more stretch plays, potentially some more toss plays as well. Finding different ways to get the ball in Saquon Barkley's hand. I wouldn't be surprised if Saquon Barkley throws a ball in this game, a little Philly special situation type. So
he definitely could. But I think this is an offensive line that the Chiefs have never seen, right? Like, I mean, James Cook looked pretty good against them.
Yeah, when they gave him the freaking
gave him the ball. But the Eagles aren't going to make that mistake, right? Here's the game plan for Philadelphia. I'm going to spoil it right now for you. It's hand it off. Get the ball in Saquon's hands as much as he can. He has a week off. Saquon Barkley has probably marched into Nick Sirianni's office and said, if I don't touch the ball 30 times this game, I'll fight you. Like, Saquon is going to touch the ball an ungodly amount this game.
I hope so. He only had 15 carries in the conference championship game, but that was Well, yeah, I was about to say it was kind of twofold. One was the team didn't need it, right? That they were winning, they were blowing out Washington, and also kind of in that same mix there, Steve, is the situation. He had a little bit of a calf cramp going on, so they weren't going to rush him back, and they're giving Gainwell and Will Shipley some run towards the end of that game. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. Let's not overthink this one. I think it's a good
Please
play
don't.
for you. So, guys, those are our Super Bowl best bets. We're going to go ahead and we're going to round out the show now with one of my favorite segments on the entire program that we do. The internet, the world, it can be a toxic place sometimes, but we like to shed a little bit of good news and good light on the world. So let's get right into it with our feel-good headlines of the week and good news. All right, my good news headline of the week. It is TCU wide receiver Jack Bech wins the Senior Bowl MVP. Jack Bech not only catches the game-winning touchdown, but a total of 6 receptions for 65 yards. This is the guy who seemingly came out of nowhere this past year. I mean, if you were anywhere near a TCU game, everyone wanted to talk about Savion Williams, kind of this Deebo Samuel type of player who can run the ball, who can throw the ball a little bit, who can also catch the ball really well. And Jack Bech came out of nowhere this past year, 62 receptions, 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. But what made this such a good story, Steve, and why I will be rooting for Bech at the next level, not only does he seem like an awesome guy, but this performance at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, this came just a month after his brother was killed in the tragic New Orleans New Year's Day attack. So to be able to put that aside, to use that as motivation, he said it was his brother who's given him these wings to do the things that he's been able to. It is inspiring, and Jack Bech is someone I think we can all get our arms around and support this guy as he makes the transition to the NFL.
Yeah, this is like such a great piece of news, right? As a brother, as a big brother, I couldn't imagine losing my little brother or my brother. It's unthinkable
Yeah.
in a way that makes you just, yeah, like it clutches at your heart in a way that, like, you're a big brother too, right? And
Yeah.
it's a different world. Like, I know that sounds so cheesy, but being someone's older brother, like, you feel that responsibility to protect them
Yeah.
from all the things in this world, right? Like, you want to, and you can't, right? But
Mhm.
to have your brother taken from you in such a mindless, awful tragedy,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's it. This guy deserves this win, and I hope he carries him forward. I hope teams give
Mhm.
him a chance.
And to be able to go out there, less than a month after this tragic event happens and not only show up, because I think a lot of people would just say, hey, screw it. I'm just, I'm going to take the month off. I'm going to head down to Indianapolis here in March and see what I can do. But not only does he go out there, but he goes out there and has, a week of practice that many are writing about and saying that this guy won the Senior Bowl. So, Jack Bech, congratulations. Thank you for being such a stand-up gentleman. Thank you for being an inspiration for many of us out here. And I will be rooting for Jack Bech. You are the people's champion, my friend. So, Jack Bech, thank you for that good news of the week. Steve, you have a feel-good headline of the week. More coming from the entertainment world. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I feel like I should have gone first because this feels really minor comparatively. Lady Gaga, you know what? It's not, because I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this on the show, but I feel like we need to. Lady Gaga did go back to her roots with her dark Gaga era with Abracadabra. Lady Gaga, why this is so important is because she is so important to so many people in the pop culture sphere. People like
Mhm.
me. We don't talk politics on this show for a very real reason, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
want this
yeah,
to
yeah.
be a place that people can come and feel comfortable and
Have
wanted and
fun, man.
respected and
Yeah.
have fun. But every now and then, we do owe it to our listeners, to ourselves, to our friends and family to stand up and say, sometimes people get it wrong, right? And Lady Gaga represents that for a lot of people where she stands up and says what a lot of people need to say. And Abracadabra, you can say whatever you want about it. It is a pop song, but it's a return to form and a tour de force for someone who has stood up and spoken out for queer people like myself every chance she's gotten. And with the world kind of being the way it is, not even the world, but our country really being the way it is, and it feels like it's kind of crashing down on queer people a lot lately. Lady Gaga coming back, it just gave a lot of people so much hope and something to cling on to and be happy about. I love Lady Gaga. When I was a closeted kid in high school and I had my headphones in and I was riding the bus to baseball and I had it turned real low, but I was sitting there just rocking to Gaga the whole, so hard with all my heart. I loved this woman in high school and I was so afraid for people to know. And now I'm not. Now I'm not scared for people to know. I love Lady Gaga. Like, I am a little monster through and through. I am going to her tour when she announces it. I will spend a stupid amount of money to go support her.
Yeah.
And I've had Abracadabra on repeat for 2 days straight. Like, this song is amazing. So whether the political shit appeals to you or not, this song is a fucking bop.
Yeah.
Let's put that right out there. This song is a bop. This song is reminiscent of like the Fame Monster, which Alejandro and Born This Way and Bloody Mary and things like that. This song, it serves cunt in a hard way.
Hell yeah, man. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate your transparency. And dude, like, this is what it's all about, man. Right? Like, my biggest thing, and I think I've been very clear to everyone on this, is like, no matter what side of the equation you're on, like, let's uplift other people. Let's be good humans. And, that's what I feel like this song, that's what I feel like Lady Gaga it has always been about, right? Like, even the movie she did a few years back too, like, just the message that movie and that the effect that movie had on a lot of people was, A Star Is Born is fantastic. So Lady Gaga never been afraid to get out of her comfort zone, but it's always great to see her kind of go back in her bag and deliver us a banger too. So, and
show she still got the bag. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. She still has the bag,
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, I greatly appreciate your insight tonight, whether it was the entertainment world or the fantasy football, NFL gambling world. We appreciate you here at IBT. Also appreciate my guy Kyle in the back end, as always, as well. Kyle, you're the man. We appreciate everything you do for us. I appreciate the IBT family out there, everyone hanging out in the chat. If you guys are new, please subscribe to the channel. Come back, hang out with us. Steve, myself, and an entire gang of IBT family members. We're here live every Tuesday evening, 9:35 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you're hanging out. Make sure you guys are being good to one another. Crazy time in life right now. We're going to keep swinging and keep rolling with the punches because that's what we do here at IBT Media. Enjoy Super Bowl week. Take it in for what it is. Maybe get yourself some chicken wings. Maybe get yourself a couple beverages, whatever you're enjoying. We hope you do that. For Steve Lawson and Kyle Scott, my name is Seth Woolcock, and love y'all so much. Keep it in between until next time. Thank you.